Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Nassau County Legislator Seth Koslow, alongside some of my colleagues on the Democratic legislature. We're here today because right now Nassau County hands out the keys to more than 300 taxpayer-funded cars that people operate, and we have no idea of who's operating them, when they're operating them, or where they're going. There's no real rules, there's no oversight, and there's no transparency. In Suffolk County, they like to track mileage of cars, gas that's used. In Nassau County, we don't even know who operates them. We have a problem giving out keys to cars and no one knows where they're going. But that abuse stops today. Hundreds of cars are operating on Nassau County roads, running red lights, driving on sidewalks, driving on grass, and no one knows who's driving those cars. In 2018, an audit found that 363 taxpayer-funded take-home cars were being used at a cost of over $125,000 unnecessary taxpayer dollars. 7 years later, we're back to square one. The cars aren't perks, they aren't freebies, they aren't toys, they're taxpayer-funded assets. We should know where they're going and who's using them and for what purposes. The administration is treating them like freebies and giving them out without any word on who's using them and why. I'm stopping that today by filing this legislation to ensure that we know who is using the cars, why they're using them, and where they're using them. This legislation is going to slam the brakes on the culture in Nassau County of keys without consequences. Every take-home vehicle will need written justification as to why someone is using it, GPS tracking on the vehicles, fuel and mileage logs, and quarterly public reports so we know what is happening. This way, if you're driving a car in Nassau County and you get a red light camera ticket, you're responsible for it, not the taxpayers. The public deserves to know where, why, and at what cost these cars are being used. This legislation is more than just about cars, though. It's about restoring faith and transparency in our government. We can't ask our residents to trust us as elected officials, as a government, to spend their tax dollars wisely if we don't even know where our cars are going and who has them. For years, the Nassau County policy on cars has run like a backroom car service. Take it, drop it off, leave the keys when you leave. The legislation puts those backroom deals and any misuse to end. This shines a bright light on the problem we have of wasting taxpayer dollars and wasting resources that belong to the county. At the end of the day, this legislation takes away the mystery miles that are being spent on taxpayer dimes. No more free rides for political cronies, no more free rides for political appointees. We're putting the brakes on waste in Nassau County, and we're going back towards accountability and fiscal responsibility. I encourage and urge my fellow members on the legislature, on the Republican caucus, to put this legislation to a vote. It's fiscally responsible, it's fiscally prudent, and it's what the taxpayers deserve. It's not calling for much other than accountability, which every one of us in Nassau County deserves from our elected officials and our government. Any questions? Yes.
How do you know that there are still 300 some odd of these cars in operation now?
Well, that's...
The study you cited was from 18.
That's part of the problem. We don't actually know how many cars are out there. We have no reason to believe the cars have gone down. We believe the cars have gone up, and there are more cars being used, and it's adding to more cost to our taxpayers. And this bill calls for a full evaluation so we know how many cars we have, how they're being used, who's using them, and for what reasons, in order to have some tracking purpose so we know exactly how many cars we have. And the quarterly reports will determine if we're using cars that are outdated, that need to be sold, need to be repaired, things like that. This will create a database so we know what's going on, like every other government does locally.
I don't recall seeing a resolution calling for the purchase
In the capital plan. It wouldn't necessarily be a resolution for purchases, it would be just funding through the county, through the capital plan
Through
to,
that various budget.
Correct.
Pots of money.
Correct.
Right, in the different-
Correct.
And
And
then are they issued through like DPW or, and are we talking about the black Suburban that like the county executive has or what kind?
any cars that are owned by the county that are given out to any county employee, whether it's at the executive level or a DPW worker, whatever it is, we need to track. We haven't been tracking all of them. We don't know who's using them. There are some of these black cars that just blend in where, they look like police cars. No one knows whether they're police or county workers. We need to track those. We need to find out who's driving those. And that's what this does. It creates that database so we can have further tracking so we know what's going on and when.
And did you talk to the majority about this? Are they on board?
We have not spoken to the majority about it.
But it'll get on the calendar.
I mean, based on the historic trends of this Republican legislature, none of our bills get brought to a vote, but this is one of those bills that should be bipartisan, should not be an issue. It's really just about accountability and trying to limit the expense we have as taxpayers with money we're spending on things we don't have to spend. Not everybody should have access to using county cars with county insurance and county gas just because they work for the county. Not everybody at home not everybody who has a private job gets a car, and not every county worker should have access to a car either. And we need to know who's using them so we can reduce that. We're going to hopefully reduce the fleet, reduce the cost, and again, have transparency so we know where this money is going and why.
So, correct me if I'm wrong, there was a personal injury law settlement that occurred maybe a couple of months ago. Can somebody talk about that and how the county is exposed to liability and litigation of that nature?
Sure.
When?
So if a county employee is using a county car while in the course of their business, their job as a county employee, and they're using a county car, and they get into a car accident and kill somebody or hurt somebody, the county's then responsible for that lawsuit, and they're responsible for indemnifying whatever the person is responsible for. And if they're using the car outside of work hours, we need to know who that person is and why they used it, because we could be responsible if they're using it outside of their working regular hours, and if they shouldn't be using it, we could still be responsible. And this puts an end to that as well, so that we know who's using the cars and why. And if they're not justified in using it because they didn't get justification from the administration or from the county, and they're using it, they're then responsible personally, and the county's not responsible for it. So it absolves us from any exposure to someone using our cars when they shouldn't be. Right now, we don't have that. People just take out cars whenever they want, and then we have to prove they weren't working. It becomes a battle amongst our staff internally to figure out why they're using it and for what purpose.
Anybody else?
Anybody else?